You're on. Tell us about it.
Margaret, it is interesting that you are associated with animals and talk about them getting along with people. Actually, when it comes right down to it, we're all animals, okay? And I remember my youngest daughter asked me, I can't be an animal, Dad, I have no tail, okay? And I pointed to her, she does have a tailbone. We all have tailbone. We're all critters, and God bless us all.
Is there an animal you felt close to?
It's a dog, okay, who I love too much, and I've been associated with my dog Clyde for 15 years now. He's a darn good dog, and I love him a lot. He's getting old, and someplace I will probably outlive him.
That's the problem with dogs, unfortunately.
The cat and it's named and its name is Lucky, and I love it.
Why do you love it?
Because she's really cute and nice, but she's old. And there's another dog named Barney that he's a Chihuahua, and he doesn't like anybody except for me and people who he knows. And yeah.
I have a 17-year-old kitty that is an annoyance and the light of my life. He's so sweet. He cuddles me and then he bites me. He requires me to be home at certain times. And he's a love.
About a month ago, my granddaughter and I were hiking in the Catoctin Mountains, okay, on the state park side. That would be Cunningham Falls. And we, on occasion, come across things. Well, this time, about 5 miles out, we encountered a rattlesnake. A big rattlesnake, about 3 foot long, roughly 8 years old, had to be a female. I think she was going shopping. But the neat part about it was, she didn't take any offense to us. She didn't coil, she certainly saw us, she just kept moving down the trail. We were very cautious, we went around, I marked the trail, because I think they're territorial. And this would have been a timber rattler, okay? And pretty animal, okay? And we were careful when we came back, but we coexisted well. So there.
Go there. Go when you're ready.
So we have 2 cats, Midnight and Queenie. We got them from my stepdaughter, who said that she just couldn't handle them with the boys and her husband was away in Iraq. So we got them, and they sort of are in charge of the house. Queenie thinks she owns our bed, and Midnight owns all the rest of the house. And they wander around and sniff here and there. They did catch one mouse, that was helpful. And they wander outside and are really the homeowners, and we just kind of live there with them. So Midnight is a black cat. When he first came to us, he had patches all over him, and the vet said he was anxious from living in Colorado with the wild animals. So he put him on an anti-anxiety medication, and after 2 years, the patches healed, and he has a beautiful, beautiful glowing black coat. So that's Midnight and Queenie.
We have 2 hummingbird feeders outside our dining room window. And this morning, there was our usual visitor, which is a little female hummingbird who comes, and she's the dipper. She sort of stands out behind the hummingbird feeder and just dips her beak into the hummingbird feeder, and her wings just keep fluttering, and she's very delicate and fine. But she came over to our dragonfly, a metal dragonfly lawn ornament, and was exploring that, but then someone came along and took her away. We couldn't find where she went, so off she flew with someone else besides the dragonfly, but the dragonfly was definitely trying to attract her attention.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. We had a cat named Smudge. She came to our back door one day. She was very cold and scared. She used to be a barn cat, and she ran away, and all we can figure out is men in big boots were mean to her. And the first night we didn't have anything to give her except milk and bread, and she ate it up like it was filet mignon. So she became our kitty, and she was an excellent mouser, being a barn cat. And what I loved about her is that she would answer you when you called. So she would meow like this, meow, and if I went meow, she would sing back. And she loved to go hunting mice in the field behind our house. And when we wanted her to come in, I'd go outside and she'd be nowhere to be found, and I go meow, and a little tiny white dot would appear in the hill from out of the grass, and I'd go meow, and I'd hear echoing through the valley meow, and you'd see the little white dot bounding down the hill, and she would come in good as gold.
The first dog that my family had was named Paz, and Paz was one of those quiet dogs. He liked to bark a lot, but he was quiet in that he was generally still, and you'd pet him and he'd just sit there like, oh yeah, this is the good stuff. And then when Paz was getting old, he stopped being able to hold his bladder through the night, and my parents said, like, he can't sleep in our bedroom anymore, which is where he had always slept. So they exiled him to the sort of sunroom of the house, and he would whine all night because he just wanted to come upstairs and sleep with the rest of the family. So I couldn't bear to see him whine all night, so I went down and I slept on the couch in the sunroom with him for the rest of his life, which didn't turn out to be that long.
Oh, wow.
But
how old were you?
I was in 8th grade, and he still whined all night, but at least I was there with him.
Comforting.
Cassowaries are approximately 6 feet tall, birds in Australia, and most of them is blue, except for their eyes are blood red, and they have a horn on top of their head, and they're extremely territorial, and if they're found in your territory, they will hunt you down like prey and peck you, normally with the horn and practically to death. And they also very like kiwis, but they'll eat most anything. So
gave you the answers. And why are you interested in things?
I think it's just amazing that there are flightless birds like ostriches, but they're more like territorial and like aggressive than ostriches.
So I went on a very long family trip. It was about 6 weeks. We went all the way out to California, almost. And one of our first stops was Yellowstone. And you know, there's a lot of wild animals in Yellowstone. And my mother's least favorite animal, the bear, was supposed to walk right through our campground, we found out, when we went there. Now, at that place, we saw no bears. But one day, my father and I decided to go off by ourselves to go look for wolves in the Wolf Valley, which it's not called that, but it is named something to do with wolves, a name which I cannot remember. And while we were there, we saw a park ranger pulled over. And so my dad parks our truck about 100 feet away, and he gets out and he walks over to the park ranger, and he's over there talking to him, and my window's rolled down, and I'm looking over because there's a river next to the car. And I look out my open window, and a bear comes up the side and stops about 10 feet away from me and stands up on its hind legs and just stares for about a minute. And then looks at me, like nods its head, and turns around and goes. And my dad comes back and says, the park ranger saw a bear but couldn't find it. So it's like, well, we found it. So
did you feel a connection to this bear?
Just in the long stare, I don't know how much of a connection there was, but there was definitely an awareness of the both of us.
Yeah.
So a couple years back, a man contacted me for my meeting that he wanted to give me some bee equipment because his hives had disbanded and they had swarmed, and he was going to quit beekeeping, and he wanted to stop, and it was too much. And I said, sure, I'll take your bee equipment. And because at the time I had a hive, but my hive died off shortly, and I kept his bee equipment. And it was sitting around for a couple of years, and this past year, he wanted to reclaim his beekeeping gear so he could restart, because he'd recovered from some illnesses that he'd always had, and he was feeling a lot better, and he said, hey, I'd like it back. And so we were more than welcome to give back his bee equipment and make sure that he continued to do the thing that he loved for many years. And sadly, though, this past February or March, he passed away, and it was a great loss. And we still had his bee equipment, and we didn't know what to do with it. And I had a really deep personal connection to this man, but we didn't know what to do with his bee equipment. And this summer, we had some guests coming, and we wanted to clean out our yard, and the bee equipment was in our yard. And so we went to investigate, and what was really strange was that there were bees in the hive equipment that he left for us. And it turned out that we had a hive without even knowing it, and it's further developed this summer, and we continue to feed the bees, and the hive has grown. And me and my mother have a hypothesis that the spirit of this man came back into the same hive that he loved at one time, and he's still with us.
Good evening. I'm going to read a poem about my late cat, Jessie. It is entitled Jessie Zzz. I was doing this exhilarating, exciting, well, maybe really kind of boring webinar, that is, seminar on the web. With her powerless points, the presenter droned and drawled Southern style about you guys, not y'all, and told us about the advantages of having only one throat to choke. Are you taking nominations? To the lower left-hand corner of the screen was a small white box. Below it, a button read, Submit a Question. Geriatric cat Jessie climbed up on the table, lumbered over to my computer, and plopped himself down on the keyboard. And suddenly there appeared in the question box, Z, 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 Z. Me too, Jessie. Me too. I write this a week later as Jessie lies in state in an I am's box. I am, but he's not. In the living room after our trip to the vet. Jessie's now sleeping in the arms of Jesus, or Buddha, or whoever welcomes cats into the afterlife. All dogs go to heaven, and maybe all cats go to nirvana. Gotta keep them separate. Bye-bye, Jessie. I will never webinar again without thinking of you. Sleep well. Z, 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 Z.
When I was on a wilderness program with my college, I had to do a solo. And while I was on the solo, I thought I had to find something productive to do, and I sat and watched a beaver dam thinking eventually I was going to see a beaver if I sat there long enough, because I had all the time in the world. And as I sat there, I was really still, and I was looking for the beavers, and I looked up and there was a goldfinch on my knee. That's it.
Kaylee, tell us why you picked a dog to have your face painted and what dogs mean to you.
I picked a dog because I have a new dog, and dogs mean I like dogs because
And what do dogs mean to you? What
they mean to me because they give you French kisses.
They give.
You think your dog loves you?
Yeah.
How do you know?
How do you know your doggy loves you?
Because he gives me kisses.